The rain hammered against the windows of my small study in Manchester, mirroring the storm raging inside me. Alistair, a 43-year-old software engineer, had always considered myself a rational man, a man of logic and order. My life with Bronwyn, my wife of 15 years, was built on that same foundation, or so I thought. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Bronwyn, a vibrant and outgoing marketing executive, began working later hours. A big campaign, she'd explain, her eyes tired but bright with a professional zeal I'd always admired. I made her dinner, listened to her vent about demanding clients, and offered a shoulder to lean on. I was the supportive husband, the rock she could always count on. But then came the phone calls. Whispered conversations in the hallway, always stepping away from me, her voice dropping to a low murmur. "Just work," she'd say, a little too quickly, a little too defensive. I shrugged it off. I trusted her, didn't I? Trust was the cornerstone of our marriage. The weekend trips were next. "A conference in Birmingham," she announced one Friday evening, already packing her overnight bag. "Important networking opportunity." I kissed her goodbye, wished her luck, and promised to have her favorite lasagna ready when she returned. But something felt off. The kiss was perfunctory, her eyes distant. My unease grew, a gnawing suspicion that refused to be ignored. I started noticing other things: the new perfume she wore only on work occasions, the unfamiliar lipstick stain on her collar that she dismissed as a smudge from a colleague's farewell party, the way she flinched when I touched her. One Tuesday, Bronwyn left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. "Don't touch it," she'd always warned, fiercely protective of her privacy. But curiosity, fueled by weeks of mounting suspicion, overwhelmed me. I told myself I was doing it for our marriage, for the truth. I waited until I was sure she was gone, then hesitantly approached the laptop. A quick search of her browser history revealed nothing incriminating. She was meticulous, careful. I almost gave up, convinced I was being paranoid, letting my insecurities get the better of me. But then I spotted a recently deleted email. My heart pounded in my chest as I recovered it. The email was from someone named Gethin. The subject line, "Thinking of you." The message was short, but the words were like a knife to my gut. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again on Friday." Same place. My world tilted on its axis. Gethin, who the hell was Gethin? Friday. That was the night of her conference in Birmingham. Same place. They had a rendezvous point. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, followed by a burning rage. Betrayal. That was the only word for it. My wife, the woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, was cheating on me. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, replaying the email over and over in my mind, each repetition deepening the wound. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus, couldn't breathe. The image of Bronwyn with another man, laughing, touching, sharing intimacies that were meant for me, haunted my every thought. When Bronwyn finally came home, she was all smiles and cheerful stories about the successful conference. I stared at her, trying to reconcile the woman I knew with the woman who had so callously betrayed me. I wanted to scream, to lash out, to demand an explanation. But I held my tongue. I needed to be strategic. I needed to know the full extent of her deceit. "How was Birmingham?" I asked, my voice carefully neutral. "Oh, it was great," she gushed. "Met some really interesting people, learned a lot. I'll tell you all about it later. I'm exhausted." "Did you meet anyone interesting?" I pressed, watching her closely. She hesitated for a fraction of a second, a flicker of guilt in her eyes. "Just colleagues," she said quickly. "Why do you ask?" "No reason," I replied, masking my anger with a forced smile. "Just curious." I decided to play along, to pretend I knew nothing. I wanted to see how far she would go, how deep her lies would run. The next few days were excruciating. I watched her, listened to her, observed her every move, all the while seething with resentment and pain. I discreetly hired a private investigator. I needed concrete evidence, something undeniable. I couldn't confront her based solely on an email. I needed proof. The investigator, a gruff but efficient woman named Lori, confirmed my worst fears. Bronwyn was indeed having an affair with a man named Gethin, a colleague from her office. They had been meeting regularly for months, at a hotel just outside of Birmingham. Lori provided me with incriminating photos of Bronwyn and Gethin kissing, holding hands, entering the hotel room together. The images were like shards of glass, piercing my heart with each glance. I had my proof. Now it was time for the confrontation. I waited until Friday evening, the night Bronwyn was supposed to be at a team-building exercise. I knew she would be with Gethin. I drove to the hotel, my hands clenched on the steering wheel, my mind racing with a mixture of anger, sadness, and a cold determination. I parked my car in the shadows and walked towards the hotel entrance. I spotted them immediately, Bronwyn and Gethin, laughing and holding hands, walking towards their room. They looked so happy, so carefree, completely oblivious to the storm that was about to break. I followed them to their room, my heart pounding in my chest. I took a deep breath and knocked on the door. Bronwyn opened the door, her eyes widening in shock when she saw me. "Alistair, what are you doing here?" she stammered, her face paling. "I think I should be asking you that question," I said, my voice dangerously low. Gethin emerged from the bathroom wearing only a towel. He looked just as surprised as Bronwyn. "Who is this?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing. "This is my husband," Bronwyn said, her voice trembling. Gethin looked at Bronwyn, then back at me, a flicker of fear in his eyes. "I know everything," I said, my voice cutting through the silence. "The emails, the hotel, the lies, I know about Gethin, I know about everything." Bronwyn burst into tears. "Alistair, I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "It was a mistake, it didn't mean anything." "A mistake," I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Months of lies and deceit sneaking around behind my back, that's your definition of a mistake." "I don't know what to say," she cried. "I'm so ashamed, I scoffed. "You should be. You've destroyed our marriage, you've betrayed my trust, you've broken my heart." I turned to Gethin. "And you," I said, my eyes burning with anger. "You're a pathetic excuse for a man. You knew she was married and you didn't care. You're a home wrecker." Gethin remained silent, his face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm leaving," I said, turning back to Bronwyn. "I'm filing for divorce. Don't bother contacting me." I walked out of the room, leaving Bronwyn sobbing and Gethin speechless. I didn't look back. The divorce was quick and relatively painless. Bronwyn didn't contest it. She knew she was in the wrong. I got the house, the car, and a fair share of our assets. I didn't want to punish her financially, but I wasn't going to let her off scot-free either. In the aftermath, I felt a profound sense of loss, but also a strange sense of freedom. I was no longer trapped in a lie. I was free to start over, to rebuild my life on a foundation of honesty and trust. I threw myself into my work, spending long hours coding and designing. I reconnected with old friends, took up new hobbies, and started traveling again. I slowly began to heal, to piece my life back together. One evening, a few months after the divorce was finalized, I received a phone call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering it. "Hello," I said cautiously. "Alistair, it's Bronwyn," the voice on the other end said. I almost hung up, but something compelled me to listen. "What do you want, Bronwyn?" I asked, my voice cold. "I just wanted to tell you I made a mistake," she said, her voice trembling. "A big mistake. I miss you, Alistair. I miss our life together." "It's too late, Bronwyn," I said. "You had your chance, you threw it away." "I know," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I'll never forgive myself." "Good," I said. "Because neither will I." I hung up the phone and took a deep breath. I felt a pang of sadness, but also a sense of closure. Bronwyn had made her choice, and she had to live with the consequences. A few years passed. I continued to work, travel, and enjoy my life. I even started dating again, cautiously optimistic about the future. One day, I received an unexpected email from Lori, the private investigator. "Alistair," she wrote. "I have some information that I think you should know about Bronwyn and Gethin. It's complicated." Intrigued, I called Lori and arranged to meet her for coffee. "What is it, Lori?" I asked after we had exchanged pleasantries. "Well," she said, hesitating. "After you divorced Bronwyn, she and Gethin got married, but it didn't last long." "What happened?" I asked. "Gethin was abusive," Lori said. "He was controlling, manipulative, and sometimes violent. Bronwyn tried to leave him several times, but he always managed to talk her into staying." "And," I prompted. "Eventually," Lori continued, "Bronwyn found out that Gethin had been cheating on her with multiple women. She finally left him for good." I felt a strange mix of emotion, satisfaction, pity, and a touch of vindication. "But that's not all," Lori said. "A few months ago, Gethin was arrested for fraud. He had been embezzling money from his company for years. He's facing a long prison sentence." I stared at Lori, stunned. Karma. It had finally caught up with them both. Bronwyn is now working as a waitress in a small town in Wales, Laurie said. She's struggling to make ends meet. She's lost her career, her friends, and her reputation. I didn't say anything for a long moment. I thought about Bronwyn, the vibrant, ambitious woman I had once loved, now reduced to a struggling waitress, her life in ruins. Thank you, Laurie, I said finally. I appreciate you telling me all of this. I left the coffee shop and walked through the streets of Manchester, the rain having stopped, the sun peeking through the clouds. I felt a sense of peace, a sense of closure. I had moved on, I had healed, and I had learned a valuable lesson about trust, betrayal, and the enduring power of karma. Bronwyn's betrayal had been the most painful experience of my life, but it had also made me stronger, more resilient, and more appreciative of the good things in my life. I had survived, and I had thrived. And that, I realized, was the best revenge of all.